again, no court shall have any jurisdiction save by or under any law. Now, it's speaking for myself, it's very, very clear that by and under the law, jurisdiction can even be conferred on this court because it relates to all the courts. Now, the only restriction is in entry 55.
Yes.
It can be enlarged.
Yes.
No jurisdiction conferred under the Constitution can be curtailed or in any way interfered with by or under the law.
Yes. Let me just explain.
Mr. Faisal, you haven't explained the entry. Yes, please, could you just take a little, time to just explain to such extent as expressly authorized. So where is it expressly authorized in the Constitution? Where is it under the Constitution expressly authorized that you could enlarge the jurisdiction under 184?
May I explain that by reading a passage and then I'll state my argument. 2021.
So I take it that you agree with us that 175(2) does not confer jurisdiction
It
or
does.
competence.
No, it does.
Competence.
It does. It does.
Okay, you insist that it does.
No, I don't.
Competence, even if it is couched in negative terms.
I think negative is a relative word.
And
if
it says no court, what else could be a negative?
And since law can here mean provincial law, it likewise confers it on provincial law. So what is then to prevent a province from saying, we are conferring a right of appeal on the Supreme Court relying on this 175(2)?
Because
here is our law, we are conferring a jurisdiction.
Because they would be barred under entry 55.
That's the whole point.
Yes.
That therefore validly enacted law.
Let me explain this. If I may read a passage. Exactly the same problem came before the court. 2021 CLD 214, para 63. Both these provisions are dealt with.
Section 44 of the Competition Act के अंदर अपील है against the
तो
appellate
फिर उसमें
tribunal.
यही सवाल आ गया ना कि
मैं उस पे आता हूँ प्रोसीजर
नहीं, ये जो कॉम्पिटिशन एक्ट ने अपील प्रोवाइड कर दी, जो सवाल ये है कि वेयर इज इट मेंशन्ड एक्सप्रेसली
जरा देखिएगा इसी में जवाब
कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन फॉर,
अगर आप देखिएगा इसी में जवाब
175(2) के तहत ही लार्ज हुई होगी।
जी अगर आप देखिएगा पैरा 62, it's the exact problem which her ladyship Justice Aisha Malik has dealt with. Exactly the same.
Para 62 is in
62.
Which page?
293.
293. Thank you.
सर पैरा 62 में मैं पहला पैराग्राफ नहीं पढ़ूंगा, अगर आप देखिएगा एंट्री 55 रिप्रोड्यूस्ड है, ठीक, उसके नीचे मैं पढ़ रहा हूं. There are two parts to entry 55. Have your lordships found?
Yes.
There are two parts to entry 55. The first part allows Parliament to legislate on the jurisdiction and powers of all court in respect to matters in the FLL, which is the Federal Legislative List. The Supreme Court has been excluded from this part, meaning that Parliament cannot legislate on the jurisdiction and power of the Supreme Court in so far as the entries in the FLL. The second part of entry 55 deals with the enlargement of the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court of Pakistan and confirming of supplemental, please, confer supplemental powers as well. Article 175(2) of the Constitution states that no court shall have jurisdiction save as is conferred on it by the Constitution or by or under the law. Article 175(2) of the Constitution gives Parliament competence to confer jurisdiction on the court by or under a law. The question is, does this include the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court? When Article 175(2) is read with entry 55 of the first part of the FLL and Article 142 of the Constitution, Parliament is competent to make law enlarging the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court and conferring supplementary power, which is provided by the Constitution by or under the by or under the Constitution, meaning that the constitutional jurisdiction of the Supreme Court of Pakistan cannot be taken away, but where the Constitution authorizes on jurisdiction, it can be enlarged. So these are
So
the
the
two.
question again is,
ये judgment, has it been assailed before this court?
Yes, yes.
क्या हुआ उसका?
No, it's not suspended, I think, leave grant हुई.
इसे निकालिए, ये आप तो चेक कीजिए, ये इसके नंबर ले लीजिएगा, बता दें.
Sir, मैं भी CCP को उसमें leave grant हुई है, suspend नहीं.
Is it unanimous or is it a unanimous judgment?
Sir, on certain issues,
On this issue.
on this issue, all three agree. All three agree.
Okay.
On this issue, which is given at the last para of her ladyship's judgment, अगर आप वो भी देख लें, उन्होंने बताया किस पे dispute है, किस पे नहीं है.
but Mr. Faisal, my problem with perhaps this judgment also, or otherwise, is that how do you pass this, the test of expressly authorized by or under the Constitution? So what I would understand from this is that somewhere in the Constitution, it must expressly talk about enlargement of the jurisdiction.
Not the enlargement. Not the enlargement.
वो बताएं।
Enlargement and supplemental are restrictions. Apart from that, you cannot. But enlargement of the jurisdiction and supplemental powers is the restriction imposed on Parliament's powers when it legislates on the jurisdiction and powers of the Supreme Court.
Let me just finish with this judgment. Can you tell us the background of this judgment? What had happened?
Sir, जो Competition Act है उसकी वायरीज चैलेंज हुई थी, and one of the provisions which was challenged was that how can a direct appeal be provided from a statutory body through a statute? That was one of the questions.
Sorry, come again.
Sir, how can a direct appeal be provided to the Supreme Court through an ordinary statute?
It was to the Supreme Court.
Yes. And what is the legislative?
Against
Sir, Section 44
Yeah.
है Competition Act.
Against whose order?
Sir, वो
Competition
order होता
Commission
है Competition Appellate Tribunal का.
के ऑर्डर के
So in the nature of a service type matter, direct to the Supreme Court.
Direct to the Supreme Court. Election Act में भी है.
Huh?
But the question which was answered was one of legislative competence. कि कहाँ से power आता है?
इसमें तो अगर आप देखें सिद्दीकी साहब, आर्टिकल 185 में 185 में सिर्फ